Nathalie Cadet-James has an amazing story. She's a wedding planner that has been recognized by Harper Bazaar as one of the top wedding planners in the world. She's also planning events for corporation. She's been traveling the world, and she has so many nuggets to share with us. I am sure you're going to enjoy this week's episode of the Business of Meetings podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. I'm Eric Rosenberg, and today I have the great privilege of speaking with an amazing entrepreneur. She has had many lives in her short life, and we're going to discover that. Nathalie Cadet-James, how are you?
I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Eric.
My pleasure. I mean, your story is fascinating. What you've done in your life is fascinating. I'm really happy you took the time to be with me today and share all those great content that people listening will benefit from. And first thing first, your company looks fed, as I said with my French accent, but you've been positioned as a top planner in the world. Harper Bazaar has recognized you as a top wedding planner in the world, and you're also doing corporate events. You've been planning meetings international. We'll speak about that as well. And if I'm not mistaken, you're a recovering attorney.
Yes. My mom does not like the word recover before attorney. She wants me to forever be an attorney. But I left the practice of law about 10, 12 years ago, and I really haven't looked back since.
And what's happening? So when you're an attorney and you're thinking, well, I like what I'm doing, but... So what was this but bugging you and making you change your career?
I remember the but distinctly. I was working on a brief late one night, like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, and I just wanted to sleep. Like I couldn't find the energy or the passion to do this super, super important brief. So I did it, of course, and I was miserable the next day. And then a couple months later, like I was planning my best friend's wedding, and it was like 4 a.m. and I was happy and I was jolly and I was working on these things. I'm like, well, wait a minute here. What is the difference here? And what happened is I realized that there was a passion that was being pulled inside of me that gave me a different kind of energy. And I said, if I ever have to work late, because I really don't like to work late. I have a lot of boundaries with my time. But if I'm ever in that position, let it be for something that inspires me and pushes me, because that's where I'm my best. And at that moment, I realized that I needed to take a leap of faith to truly, nurture that. So be clear, I don't work that late all the time, but that was my metric. That was my test. How I felt in those moments and what I gave in those moments told me that I needed to be on this planning lane instead. And I did love being an attorney, but not enough to keep me up at night.
That's fascinating, because I can definitely relate to what your mother said and the position you were in. When I moved into this industry, I actually was responsible of marketing for a stockbroker company.
Why would you leave that?
Exactly. And the whole family, the friends, with your degree, whatever. So what was the reaction of the people around you? Were they supportive? Were they questioning? Were they saying, no, don't do that? And at the end of the day, what made you decide, you know what, I'm doing it anyway. And by the way, I'm going to start my own company.
So the support was there because they loved me and they saw the passion that I had.
Nice.
But every single person told me to approach it with caution. They were worried because it was like right before the recession or talks of the recession. And it was kind of spontaneous, to be honest with you. In retrospect, I wouldn't have done it when I did. I would have waited a little bit longer to build. But at the end of the day, what I realized is that I had to believe in myself. Because even when my husband was like, are you sure about this? I think he was more saying that because he wanted me to be happy versus whether he really thought I should do it. There was kind of that in his voice. So it's great to have the support, and I've thrived off of the support of my family and friends. But there are moments that it's been a very difficult journey, and I'm the only one that can really lift myself out of that. And that's because I really believe in who I am and what I'm doing.
That's awesome. I love you saying this. My father used to say in the most critical moment in life, you're alone.
Oh, goosebumps. Yes. Yeah.
And so you decide you're going to start. Everybody's looking at you, and you need customer, you need a network. So in terms of, and I know you realize the importance of network in general, how did you develop your network and how you maintaining your network?
Mm-hmm. So it was a very big shift for me. When I was an attorney, I did not network at all. In fact, I hated going to like the lunches and all of those rainmaking kind of activities. It just didn't feel comfortable for me. When I opened my business, there is no choice. You must have a network to build it. I realized that after a year of no business, after I opened my business. And I said, well, what's missing here? Well, Nathalie, no one knows what you're doing. No one knows who you are. And so you need to cultivate that. But there was still another hurdle for me to pass over. And that was, this thought of making a relationship with someone just because of business. I'd never felt comfortable with that. And then the paradigm shifted for me when I started working at the New World Symphony. They recruited me from my events business to be the director of their friends and events network while I was doing my job. And what I noticed in this position is that people were connecting because they liked each other, because they were like-minded, because they wanted to help. And once I realized that that's really what it should be, that's what networking is for me right now. It's me connecting with you because I honor you, I respect you, I'm inspired by you. And then beautiful things will evolve from that. Mm-hmm. I'll never go up to you, oh my God, it's Eric, let me give him my card and see what he can do for me. Like right. That's not an authentic relationship to build. So once I realized that, I really started developing amazing relationships with people I didn't know, and then with my clients. And then all of a sudden, we back each other up. You can call me and ask me anything. You know this. And I feel the same way. Yeah. And that's because the basis of it that we're starting is a real one. So networking was very important. It became more important to me and more powerful to me when I realized that I wanted to form real connections with the people that I was meeting, not one based really solely on business.
I so much agree with you. And there's so many even business owners or people starting their company and say, oh, I'm going to go this, I'm going to get the business. I say, don't. Try to connect with people, and then you will see what can come out of it. So that's the first great tip you're giving. And the second one, obviously, is the way you're talking with them and not necessarily hoping for business, but trying to help and thinking about them first. Yeah. Now, you've developed a tremendous network. How do you maintain it?
So maintaining it actually is an effort, right? But when you're in a relationship, it's a plant. Mm-hmm. You got to water it if you want to see the results of it. So I am very protective of my time and of my relationships too. And for me, it's worth it. And so I maintain my business relationships. Just if I see something that might be interesting to a client, I'll send it to them. It's what you mentioned earlier, kind of like, how can you help someone? It's very easy. Hey, I saw this. What do you think? Just sending it your way. And that goes a long way. And then there's other relationships that are seeped into my personal life. So now all of a sudden we're celebrating birthdays. I mean, things are different in COVID, but we're in each other's lives somehow naturally. And it becomes much easier to stay connected. Mm-hmm. I think with the advent of social media, that's also a very helpful way to stay connected. It can be dangerous because, what I've realized is not everything you see is necessarily, people put what they want to put out, the story that they want to paint. And it's easy to feel sometimes insecure or a little envious. And so whenever I get into that zone, I stop and instead pick up the phone and just really call. Yeah,
the social media life might be depressing if you look, oh, everybody seems to be doing so great. Everybody's so happy and I'm not. Well, actually, I remember this meme about Halloween when people said, for Halloween this year, I decided to show up like who I am really, instead of who I'm portraying on social media.
Ooh, that's deep. That's deep. That's depressing, actually. That's deep.
Yeah, but I think you're making a very important point, and we should all be aware of it. what we see on social media we shouldn't be comparing. We shouldn't be affected by that, because that's not the reality.
It's not, and you can't grow. And I've learned this because I have done that. I have looked at people and thought, how did she get that? Or how did she do it? Why am I not? And you find yourself stuck, right? Like, why are you thinking about other people's pretend happiness or even real happiness if it's, hopefully it's real happiness? Because when I focus energy on that, or when I used to, I didn't evolve as a person. I didn't do anything to advance, myself. So once you figure that out, I think it's okay, social media, but it's so important to just work on being better than yourself. My path is very different than most. Everyone's journey is different. It's impossible to compare. And I think I know I only win when I focus on Nathalie and what Nathalie can do to be a better person and a better entrepreneur. And, and I just try not to let myself get caught up in how fast it seems to be happening for everyone else, because A, that's their story. B, it may or may not be true. And C, it actually doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. Talking about when you're focusing on what is good for Nathalie, what you're doing, are you spending a lot of time reviewing contracts?
So I pride myself on this. I'm not spending a lot of time reviewing contracts, but the beauty is, at least with working with me, with my legal background, I really get to protect my clients' investments. I really look at everything with a different lens, and it definitely brings a value. I'm happy to look at a contract because for me, contracts manage expectation, especially a beautifully written contract. And so I'm always interested in great foundations. So for me, that's what the contract does. So I like it. I don't mind it.
A beautifully written contract. I mean, my wife is a lawyer. Only people like you could say that. A beautifully written contract.
Yeah, means no ambiguity. That's the beauty.
Okay. And also something else you told me that I think is beautiful. You said grace will take you places hustling can't.
Yeah, that's my motto. There was a time where I felt like I was hustling all the time, like trying to get something, trying to do something, always on a wheel, just trying to make it happen, being forceful on people, and nothing ever came out of that. When I accepted things as they were, when I opened my eyes to opportunities in front of me, when I trusted myself to just go into a situation with grace, which means you don't know what's going to happen, but you're going to try and you're going to accept it and you're going to move on. When I adopted that philosophy, it was like a water flow of good things, happening. Is that to say it's always a water flow? No. There are drought periods. Right. But there's something about just leaning into things instead of always having to force it. In fact, now I look back at moments I tried to force, the things that resulted from that were never really great. Like the return on interest was never really great, the return on investment. But things that flow out of grace, they're just the most pleasant surprises out of what happens from it. I don't know how to say it better, but I just kind of go with it. I know where I want to go, and I allow myself to lean into it and be open to the opportunities.
There's so many golden nuggets in what you said. And let me try to summarize for those listening. One, know where you want to go and spend time to define the vision and how you're going to get to it. Second, let it go.
Yes. Which is so hard.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you tell me. Yes. And third is really believing in what the universe is going to bring to you when you put it out there, and things will happen.
Yeah. And you have to work for it too. It's not like you just sit and say, okay, let it happen. But you have to, letting go means being aware that things might not come to you the way you expect them or plan them to come to you. But it's usually 10 times better than that plan anyway. Which
is the essence of what we do, right?
Yeah.
Being open to opportunities. I know you have so many great stories. One particularly that I'd love you to share is how you happened to plan a wedding in Africa, and precisely in Rwanda. How did that happen? And what did you learn from that experience that everybody's listening here that might not have the chance to have traveled should actually learn from you?
So first, I wanted to start by saying my dream before becoming an event planner while I was at Lawyer was to specifically be an international event planner. I labeled myself that without even having planned an event in another country. I love to travel. I feel it enriches your life in so many ways.
Absolutely.
So I planned a wedding on Fisher Island for a couple, beautiful wedding. And a lot of my clients come from guests who have been to my events. And
sorry for those listening that are not from South Florida. Fisher Island is this beautiful island out of Miami.
Yes.
Where the rich and famous are living.
Beautiful island. And there was a guest at a wedding, boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. They just had so much fun at this wedding. Like they felt inspired and loved. And he proposed to her. And he said he proposed to her. He felt comfortable proposing to her because he already knew who was going to plan the wedding. Wow. So it turned out she was from Rwanda, actually. And so like many of my clients, they want their weddings to feel like home, just to be a real celebration and go back to who you are. And so it was an interesting proposition for me, a wedding in Rwanda. So the traveler in me was like, hell yeah, let's do this. Yeah. And then my mom actually and everyone else was like, oh yeah, sure. So I spent some time researching because as you know, there was the genocide in Rwanda just honestly 15, 20 years before I did this wedding. But I realized if I'm true to myself about exploring and loving people and traveling and seeing the world, that this was a once in a lifetime experience. And we went, and it was the most exceptional travel experience ever. First of all, what I had in my mind was completely different than what it was on the ground. There was love, there was green, there was compassion, there was, these wonderful gorillas in the mountain and the rivers and the tea farms. And what struck me most was how people were together in the country. I just didn't expect to feel that in that place. And it was a resounding experience that was my first time in the continent of Africa. So I'm grateful that I got to do that there. And then I traveled to some other parts of Africa as a result. So weddings, and look at that, letting go of being an attorney gave me one of the best travel experiences and professional experiences of my life. I would have never thought that international event planner should have included Rwanda in there. and it did. Oh, and then I went to a safari in South Africa right afterward, and there was only another couple on there. That other couple, this gentleman and his wife, he owned like one of the biggest companies in Europe. Now we are connected. Like, how crazy is it, right? Yeah. Like, I just let it go, literally, and ended up in that position.
Yeah, and what they've done in Rwanda, particularly after the genocide and between the Tutsis and the Hutus, what happened in terms of rebuilding the country, reconciliation. I remember meeting some people from the Convention Bureau of Rwanda at IMEX last year, and speaking with people that have been there. They are absolutely stunned about what the country has done, the infrastructure, the level of service. It's phenomenal.
I tell you, it gives me hope for I'm from Haiti. It gives me hope for what other developing countries could be. And I know there's controversy. There's controversy about everything in this world now, but you cannot deny that I was in Rwanda walking safely, freely, enjoying myself. I saw someone drop her purse and her wallet, and I didn't see anyone take it and run. I saw her get it back 15 minutes later. It was in that word reconciliation, it's really hard to explain what that means and to see it come to life. Like, I thought it was a dream, honestly, what I was seeing. I didn't understand how people could come together like that, knowing that just 20 years before, it was a very different story between the two groups. So it tells you a lot is possible in the world, for sure.
Yeah. And what I'm also taking from you is that what we think we know, or what we think we see in the media, is never the same as what we experience locally with the people inside.
Absolutely never the same. We have to remember we are all humans. Our experiences, our feelings towards things are all the same. A mother wants to care for her child. An entrepreneur wants to grow their business. What connects us is so much more than what separates us. And I don't mean to say that you shouldn't see the differences in people. I love that people recognize me as a Black woman. I want you to see this because this is who I am. I just want to be respected on the same level as everyone else. So when you travel, it's not to say, oh, they're the same as us. No, it's a beautiful culture. It's a different culture. And it's just as worthy as any other, and I think that's the beauty of travel and what it does to you.
Absolutely. And seeing the people like who they are, not what they look like. And by the way, being able to call them on if they're doing stupid, regardless of what they look like, but really
because they're humans.
Exactly. But I have this other story, and I think it's important for people listening to understand perspective. When there was the Ebola outbreak, I think it was in Sierra Leone or next door in Liberia, one of the two. And if you look at the map of Africa, it's really north of Africa on the West Africa, up left if you want, if you look at the map. And I remember a friend, Hilmar from Namibia, he was telling me that he had this call from a client in the Netherlands. And Namibia is really down just above South Africa, but really in the south of the African continent. And this person from the Netherlands calling him and said, Hilmar, we're supposed to come to Namibia next year. Should we be worried about Ebola? And he told me his answer, he said, yes, you should definitely worried about Ebola. And she said, really? He said, yes, because in the Netherlands, you're closer to the Ebola outbreak than I am.
You see, we really have to open up our minds just a little more, or seek to learn,
Seek to learn, absolutely. Yeah.
Seek to learn. That's a great story.
So I'm a big fan of Yoda. When you say do or do not, there is no try. Yes. You said doing what is right over what is easy.
Yeah, and I learned that in as a lawyer, as a young lawyer. I was really grateful to work at some of the best firms in Miami, and what made them the best was the level of preparation for absolutely everything. So the young Nathalie would have just slapped things together. There you go, it works. No. We are very detailed. We lay solid foundations. Even though it seems tedious, it is necessary because it doesn't leave any ambiguity in things. And so what I learned from that experience is like, there are times where I would just rather go the easy route, let me not read that document really. Like, it's so long, I know these people, I've worked with them. Let me just sign it. Nope. Do the work, read it, analyze every section, spend the time on it, then sign it. Anytime I feel that way, literally I stop, because you must do what's right over what's easy. The results of that are honestly immeasurable. So I think part of the reason that we have a successful event planning firm is because we're more about the right over what's easy. It might take us some time up top, but it relieves us at the end.
That's very inspiring and very true. And it's always about doing the right thing when nobody's watching.
Yeah, that behind the doors. Like, it's so easy for no one to know that we really didn't do that. But that will come and bite you in the ass if you don't. I have found that. So when I clerked for a federal judge, I remember he told me, he's like, Nathalie, and he wasn't speaking to me, but he always shared with me his nuggets. He's like, I want you to see, it's never the smartest attorney who actually prevails. It's the most prepared. It's the most prepared. Always be prepared, and you can go toe to toe with anyone or anything. And I never will ever forget that.
Awesome. Now you started your own company as we were going into the previous big crisis. and now you also find ways and opportunities despite the environment for growth. Can you speak about your latest initiative and what is your new baby doing?
first I have to thank you because I never realized that. Like I didn't look at the timing of you just put that together for me. Like yeah, during COVID, which was a major shift for us, is when I've kind of pivoted my business model. I always wanted to find a way to scale what I was doing, which is a very personal matter. And it's been some time, talking with a lot of friends and people and looking deep inside. And eventually I birthed a dinner party in a box concept. And so I'm taking what I have learned from my travels around the world and creating environments for people, and I've packaged it in a box that I'm now selling. I remember being at a dinner in Italy. I just planned an event and I was at a table with like people that I didn't know, maybe 10 people. By the end of that dinner, I'd felt like everyone was a best friend and I would do anything for them. And I was wondering what happened here. Like, am I vulnerable? Am I just like so just easy? And it wasn't that. We all felt this way. It's that we shared stories with each other that connected us instantly. Like we just realized some of the things we had in common that we would have never guessed. I would have never talked to them otherwise. There is a magic about sitting at a dinner table and connecting with others. And so our dinner party in box includes conversation starters as a result of that. The beautiful table settings that I've designed. And really, it just makes it easy for you to host people at your dinner table. I believe the dinner table is like an equalizer. I believe a dinner table is where relationships get mended. I believe a dinner table is where revolutions can start. And that's not even belief. Look at history and see what wine and cheese has done to certain things. I just think we need to connect more. Technology has rendered us disconnected. And I hope that this service and offering that I'm putting into the universe, it's something that can help people connect. And that's really why I do what I do. And it's an exciting time for me to be launching this during COVID. I'd started a little bit before COVID thinking about this and had to pivot the model because it didn't work at all. It failed, totally failed. But from my previous model, I realized what I needed to do, I think, to really make it stick. So I'm excited to be in this position now. And somehow it's odd that the reasons we have to be home is the reasons that I've had the time to develop and kind of bring this to market. So very excited about that. We're launching officially in October. So it's a very exciting time for us now.
That's phenomenal. And I love your drive and the way you look at the environment moving forward like a true entrepreneur. and I really enjoy our conversation today. I have one last question about this friend Jason Gaignard. I keep mentioning it all the time. I should put some label so I don't have to repeat myself, but it's really coming from him and Clay Ebert. This question about when we meet again in 1 year with a bottle of champagne, what are we celebrating?
I'm so happy you turned that from an if to a when. That's what I'm talking about. We are celebrating a very successful business that has changed lives, that has brought people together, that has connected them. We are celebrating my role as a philanthropist and someone who has somehow, small or not, affected change in Haiti, which is where I'm from. We are celebrating the health and prosperity of all my family and friends, because above all, that really is the actual only thing that matters to me. And hopefully we're celebrating a world that's united and prospering, all of us.
Fabulous. Nathalie, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nathalie, for sharing your experience with us. I learned a lot and also was very inspired with your attitude. And you started your business in the previous crisis, and now you're really bouncing back with new ideas during this current one. That's very inspiring. Thank you. If you want to get in touch with me, please join our Facebook group, www.evenbusinessformula.com/group, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I look forward to speaking with you soon. Bye.